Greetings and the best of salutations. I hope this expression be pleasing. I just want to talk a little bit about the state of affairs and the motivation of opportunity to express appreciation for life. The state of affairs and the motivation of for the appreciation of life. I realize that there are three core values for me personally: um, opportunity, expression, and appreciation. And we're born into a condition, placed in a situation, and surrounded by circumstances, consequently, due to some previous activity that has taken place. The state of affairs. State represents a condition. An affair that one is having, we realize that's having to do with some type of interaction or some type of engagement or intercourse. And we want to know if that's what is transpiring is fair, fair. And in doing so, one is addressing uh, social diversity, moving from a persecuted minority to a privileged majority. And when one's inspiration comes down, one's aspiration goes up. Policy is driven by interest. And now I realized the word policy is associated with a Greek term called polis, where only the wealthy could participate in voting. But if we want to look at the motivation behind the state of affairs and the opportunity to express appreciation for it, I would like to maybe say primarily for what is called African Americans, but it could go beyond um, African Americans when it comes to the state of affairs and appreciation for the opportunity uh, to to express it and the motivation behind it. And we have to deal with intent. It's a movement, a freedom movement, and it is says that anytime there is a spiritual revolution, anything that remains in its natural form or natural state is spiritual. It is an evolving. And if we look at something that is in the spirit, that it is invisible, it becomes visible, which means it has been released into this physical realm of existence. And that's one's natural ability for growth and development in the evolving process. Yes, free, because there is a inspiration date of this physical body to be free, to be released, but it's suspended temporarily. The soul is in the spirit of the soul. wherever how one wants to categorize it, is suspended temporarily, housed in its body, like a nest. Nest. We'll get to that. So, what is the primarily the motivation behind freedom movement when it comes to spiritual revolution? Is the it's really against bad uh, leadership and rulership. Yes, it says surely, as a written text says, surely man get what he or she strives for, and we want to be principle driven, because remember, uh, someone says about freedom, justice, and equality. The opportunity in uh, the motivation when it comes to the state of affairs to be able to express, freedom to express yourself, the justice and equality. Yes, and we have to be clear about what is stirring us up. What is stirring us up when it comes to the state of affairs. What is the governing view, you know, of or what is the not only governing view but viewpoint, but what is the growing view of direction of one state of affairs? Because you can best tell the condition of best diagnose anyone based upon the condition of the circumstances in which one comes out of, because circumstances play a major part. Yes, the condition of circumstance, and we have opportunity. uh, what we set out to accomplish. What is the motivation? Freedom is a definite is it's a definite realization that this is not something. This is not my teachings. This is something that I extract from. I study the facts and connect the dots. Um, it's just something that was shared by Brother Imam Warren D. Muhammad. I just take from it and judicially add on and reinforce. Um, and it also embody the soul or the spirit that or embody my life experiences. You know, what I have studied and what I am living and what I am trying to personally improve upon personally to better myself. But the motivation of the freedom movement I call the spiritual revolution, and that steering that does that same spirit still stirring us, that same ambition, that same drive, um, that same motivation, um, because we know that some of the what people call the founding fathers in America, that they was, you know, they want to improve upon their quality of life, better improve upon their condition, and to improve upon their life and create an environment that favors that. Yes, so that's all. And we have the opportunity to do that. So when we have the opportunity to do that, those who were enslaved, circumstances change. So that means one must move from a victim to victorious. Yes, because we want to improve upon our state of affairs. You know, better conditions, better housing, better education. For the betterment of one's self worth. And create a favorable living environment. You know, so if one have been released from what they call physical bondage, but someone, I think Ivan Van Sertima said, mental bondage is invisible violence. So we see the violence there. We want, when we are able to, to become educated in our religious practice. I mean, people who are able to do that, they're no more bound um, uh, by the property of no one else. So that means we move from victim to victory. There was a brother that wrote a book, and I have to use this thing, named Robert Henderson, and he talks about the new Underground Railroad, economic bondage, educating the modern day slave. You do with investments, because what we must do and come to realize that we must invest in our very own soul. Because he gave some examples of slave personalities, and slave come from the word Slavic. And I'm not in downplaying anyone, but it's a language, because we're living in a word oppressive environment. So that what we need to invest is our very own soul, and we can see how certain people have an invested interest in you. Then they have an invested interest in themselves to better their be able to express themselves, and live a life and create an environment, a favorable environment, you know, that helps them to feel good, to feel better about themselves, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But he gave several slave personalities. He says a crab in the bucket slave. The slave tried to benefit by pulling other slaves down. He'll sell his soul to order to elevate himself. He didn't get where he is through hard work. He tell lies, convene or snitch on someone and cause them to be a setback, sentence, or wounded, just so he can get ahead. Yes. Yeah. It sounds very childish, very immature. This particular uh, expression of a slave personality, but just think about it. Then we got the Big Willie slave. The slave is the pretender, flashes everything he owns. I think Nina Fuller talks about uh, external therapy. External therapy, yes, external therapy. He comes across the suit and tie and diamond encrusted Rolex watch and glitz and glamour, and we see who's perpetuating and promoting that through the entertainment field, and and it's furthering, you know, improving upon their life, and that creates an environment that is favorable for them, whereas that those things are being controlled, and it is, for the lack of words, it's not attainable uh, in reality for others. I mean, for the majority of people, you know. And but that's why I like about, that was a gentleman, a young. I mean, he's older now. I would say young for some reason. He's I guess around my age. He created this league of three professional people playing, and professional athletes to play in the league, and it's just tapping into what has been said, because I realize that we are a government, within a government. We are a government within a government. We are a government within self. So, but needless to say, there are still others in the basket in the league, and then I think Brother Isaiah, some whatever, and someone else, the underdevelopment league or some league, I can't recall the name of, because some people may not make it to um, to play in this, what they call, basketball association league. So you create something under that, that will help, maybe substantiate and sustain people's, improve their life and improve upon their environment and their condition, whereas that the environment favors that life. Yes. But the trick part in a lot of things is that the environment that is created is by a conjecturer or a master magician, and it favors the thinking of those who create it, even at the expense that one loses his or her life through drugs and suicide, and that is the entertainment industry. Yes. So the scared of change slave, uh, There are a lot of slaves that are afraid of change. Yes, that's a good one. I'm going to stop there. I can move on. Okay. These are slaves who still long for the horse and, and carriage days. Change. Once again, as I stated earlier, that circumstances change. We have to move from victim to victorious. We can't. People that have been taken advantage of, misused, and abused. Circumstances change. Many people are coming to a point, to this realization that the past is just a reference point, but it's not a place of residence. Technology is here. Yes. And then we have the big entertainer slave. The slave who is an entertainer is just one hit away from being broke, but they try to act like a Big Willie, because people are really entertained by knowledge that they cannot grasp, and those behind the scenes know that. So they will entertain you with something that you do not know. Then he called the big baller slave. Even though this slave is making millions of dollars each year, you can still find him down in neighborhoods and clubs and with the rest of his homeboys. And but this is very challenging, because if you have been successful in any culture and in society, you just don't go necessarily to hang out. You go to improve upon. If your conditions have been improved upon in your life, and the environment favors your living and your lifestyle, you go to try to teach and educate others. You know, yes, and that's very challenging um, within itself, but it can be done at certain levels. You know, there are certain people who may have the formal education. Still talking about the state of affairs and the opportunity of expression. When we talk about the motivation, behind the this the state of affairs. The change, and is that the point I want to make is this here, is that there are those who may have formal education, then there are those who may not have informal education. But in a society that appreciates and reveres more so the formal education, that those who have the formal education can help those who with the informal education, that they can improve upon, help them to, if their success have been improved upon and their environment is more favorable toward them, then you bring them in. Yes, you bring them in. But we're talking about the motivation, man. What is the motivation? Because it's being revealed. I know I was talking with a gentleman, and his living environment is improved upon, and it favors his life, his lifestyle. Real good brother. And he said, well, man, when things tick off, man, hey, man, I favor you. So, hey, man, come on, come on, come on. So, but then there is an exchange that one has of how we try to improve upon one's living conditions and one's living environment and make it to become more favorable toward each other. And we need to learn that, and we got to realize that a people who want freedom, justice, and equality, that's what their strategy is all about. You know what I'm saying? That any group of people come together to improve upon their condition in their life, and their environment is they want to live in an environment that is favorable to improving upon the life in which they're living. That's just natural. There is any group of people do that. You know, so that's a tactic and a strategy within itself. Then there was called a big doper slave. The slave uses his money the same as a big baller. He also as a crab because he elevates himself by depressing in enslaving his fellow man. Yes, that's a good one within itself. Because if the charge has been made that a people is inferior, and we know that's not the case, but yet your immediate situation has changed, and the very thing that has put you down, and the very thing that made you inferior, in order for you to feel inferior, you have to make another person feel inferior. You know what I'm saying? The very thing that hurt, harm, and endanger you, um, you use that to hurt, harm, and endanger others. So it is a very challenging thing within itself. So that's why we want to look at the state of affairs and the motivation behind, when it comes to the opportunity and appreciation and expression for change and to improve upon one's life and create an environment that is favorable for one's life and his lifestyle when it comes to freedom movements and when it comes to spiritual revolution. Yes. And then there's a company called the company man slave. The company man thinks that he has made it to the top. He thinks he's no longer a slave. What he doesn't understand is that he can be fired at any day. Now we know what Sojourner Truth says, not Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman says, that she would have freed more if they knew that they were enslaved. Yes. So then he called the thug slave. The slave's motto is keep it real. But keeping it real shouldn't mean remaining a slave. Can you keep anything real when it means staying in poverty and looking wild, and manner and way in which we conduct ourselves? Because the wilderness is a place of untamed and uncultivated. It's one more I can't recall, but it's a place of untamed and uncultivated, being untamed and uncultivated. Actually, it's being out of control because you are in a wild. You are in the wild, and you can be wandering without guidance. Without guidance. So yes, so there must be a transition that one must make from these personalities when it comes to the state of affairs and the motivation behind it and the opportunity and of expression, appreciation for change, and creating an environment that is favorable for change. And I realize that change is a product of human effort, and that effort must be synthesized for a useful purpose. And we realize that circumstances makes us other than ourselves. If the circumstances change, so what does circumstances teach us? Circumstances is designed to discipline us, and that's a struggle. That's really a personal struggle, because circumstances is designed to discipline us. Um, okay, through history, throughout history, if you throw out history, what do you have? Because how can you best calculate the unknown by first calculating that which is known? So it's in the math. It's in the math. So in that math, it gives us a understanding. Now, but if you keep dwelling on the past, the past can imprison you. You dwell on something long enough, it becomes a prison. So history can imprison people. It is the misinterpretation of it and the wrong perspective and attitude that you have about it. So there must be a stirring of the nest. The nest of circumstances tells us that circumstances change, people change, conditions change, circumstances change, actions change, behavior change, attitude change, thought change, your feelings change. This is what circumstances teach us, that change. It teaches us to discipline, that there's various changes. Our surrounding circumstances changes, and we look at certain people who have been successful in life, that their environment change, that they're and it favors their life, it favors their lifestyle. So we want to say that when we talk about the state of affairs in a manner and way in which we interact with one another, we can't keep interacting with one another the same way that we have always interact with one another when it comes to the hurt, the harm, the endanger, because we're not improving upon the relationships that we have with ourselves. We're not improving upon our conditions. We're not improving upon our circumstances, and we're not improving upon our actions. So that's why it's not good to get in a relationship with anyone, and even with yourself, and even with your thinking, that is not improving you, that is not favorable in the best of ways, that's creating an environment that is conducive for your growth and your development. So we're still talking about the state of affairs and the expression of it and the opportunity for appreciation. What is the motivation behind it? So we must learn to discipline ourselves. And therefore, we bring forth what is called the kingdom of God. It is a quick or a hasten to some what they call the throne of Haru. The hour, the quickening of the hour, the quickening of the time, the quickening of the moment, of the here and now. If we look at a nest within a nest, if the eagle is stirring his nest, he flaps out, spreads his wings. The wind beneath my wings. That's the protection. But then there is undesirable visits that are undesirable that comes in to try to get to what is inside the nest. And we know that the nest is made of feathers for the eaglet. And when the feathers turn to sticks, it pokes the eagle, says time to travel. So it's time to go out on your own. That means you are free. That means you move from victim to victorious. There's a term called something to happen sooner than what otherwise would happen. So there is in the African American struggle for freedom, the freedom movement, the spiritual revolution, they approached it from a legal point of view, a legal injunction or a decree. Because in the spiritual revolution is a change of power and rulership. And this injunction makes sure that something saying be true to what you say on paper. We talk about equal protection under the rights of the law. The nature of equality is the motivating factor under this natural law of the universe, is the motivating factor when it comes to freedom, when it comes to justice, and when it comes equality. Adam Clayton Powell talked about it. Anyone beyond the United States, worldwide, all of humanity, all they're saying is that we are equal in nature. And we all have humble beginnings from our mother's womb. They talking about equality in India, everywhere. It's about equality, the nature of equality, the state of affairs of humanity is to improve upon the conditions and the living environment, and living environment is favorable to their nature of equality. So as humans, if problems are human made, who can solve the problem? So we can't blame God on anyone else or the devil. We have to take a very serious look at ourselves. And the laws that is written by humans. So I say, and I must say, as one says, we're going to not let any injunction turn us around. Because if someone makes the law, it does not mean that it's right. The state of affairs. What is the motivation behind it? And the opportunity to express appreciation for life, moving from victim to victorious, to improve upon life and creating a favorable environment that is suitable for life, for living. Be in an environment that is suitable for living. By nature, before any of us came into existence, before creation came, before anything came into existence, the environment had to be suitable for anything to come into existence. That's a power. That's a power more greater than anyone can even imagine. Well, you think on that. Until next time, talk to you.